There's a lot of confusion, even in my own head, about projects over in Claude, in the chat side of Claude, and then projects in Claude in the CoWork side. It's kind of confusing, and I want to make sure that everybody understands it clearly, because in addition to projects, you may also hear people talking about folders. And there's some different ways to use these different features that can really help you systemize your director suite if you're using my AI director suite system. And even if you're not, you need to know how the projects are different and how the projects can be connected. So let's dive into it. Okay, so right now on my screen, you see my Claude and I am in the chat. So this is the regular chat that we're all used to using. This is the regular chat feature that we've all been raised on basically, right? The thing that happens though is now Claude added CoWork, which is this little tab up here. And this gives us additional capabilities that go far beyond chat. This allows us to schedule things and vibe code right in our Claude account and automate things. Now, there's a couple things that you should note here really quick. Number one is I am in the Claude desktop app on my computer. When I am in chat, and I am in the desktop app over on my laptop, I am seeing the exact same thing. It's a mirror of my chat. The thing that changes though is that the minute I switch to CoWork, it's location based or local based. So my CoWork over here is different than my CoWork over here on my laptop, which is kind of crazy making, right? Because if you're like me and you switch back and forth and you work from two computers, you can be like, I feel like I was working on that project, and then you remember like, oh yeah, I was on my other computer. But for the sake of this, I am going to recommend that once you have created your AI director suite, if you're not using AI directors, if you've got another system that you're using, that's fine. But I have an AI director suite that I teach, and it all starts with these 7 directors, basically. So I have these set up as projects over in chat, and I set them up once in projects, and then I see them anytime and any place I log into Claude. With these projects, they are highly, highly trained. So I'm going to give you a quick look-see here. Number one is you can see that there's a memory built into it. There's instructions, and there's all of these files. These are all of my knowledge docs, my training docs for my director of marketing. It behooves me to build these out in chat before we ever start building projects over in Claude CoWork. And the reason is I'm going to show you that you can connect your Claude chat projects to your Claude CoWork projects. It's so confusing, I know. There is one more layer to this that I want to make note, and that is projects in Claude CoWork and Claude Chat are not the same thing as Claude folders in CoWork. Let me say that again. When you go into CoWork, you may hear people talking about folders. Folders are actually local to your computer. They are folders literally on your computer. So here's what I recommend as the workflow. First and foremost, you are going to build out any projects that you want over in Claude. If you think that you are going to want a project in CoWork, I recommend that you make it in the chat first, because then you can basically like mirror it or copy it or connect it. It's actually like a connection in the project in CoWork. I also recommend that if you're using the AI Director Suite system or whatever system you're using, that you also create that folder structure so it's similar in your computer. Here's a caveat that I think is kind of important. This looks like it's on my computer, but actually I use Dropbox, which is all of this living in the cloud and mirrored on my computer. Why this is nice is because I'm also logged into Dropbox on my laptop, right? And so at least I can connect the same folder structure to different Claude CoWorks if I'm working from different computers. Let's move away from folders for a minute and go back to projects. So again, I'm in chat, I've got my folders. I want to create the similar structure in projects over in Claude CoWork. So you can see here now, I'm actually in the projects folder, but if I go to new task, instead of this used to just say work in a folder, which basically connects the task to one of these folders over here. Now I can also work in a project. But first, I want to set up some projects over here, because what's going to happen is, if you all remember, prior to projects, right, we had this long list of all these chats over here. And then Claude rolled out projects and ChatGPT rolled out projects, and it gave us basically a filing system. We want to create a filing system over in CoWork, because the more we start to think about how we're going to work in CoWork, the more we want to be able to structure it, and the more you want it to connect back to your AI director, so that everything's connected, so that your brain isn't like, wait, I called it chief of staff over here, I called it director of marketing over here I called it content, right? We want it all to feel very connected, because, you know, at the heart of it all, the tool is great, but the system is what's going to help you stay organized. Think about it from the systems point of view. You want to create that systemized company structure. It doesn't matter if you're a solopreneur or whatever, right? So let's create a project. I'm going to click over in projects, and I'm going to click new projects. And instead of starting from scratch, I'm going to go ahead and import one of my projects. So this is giving me the whole list, and I always start with director of marketing because it's the one I use the most. Let's see what happens when I create it. So now over here, you can see that I can add instructions. And honestly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the instructions right from this director over here, right from this project. I'm going to copy the instructions, and I'm going to put them into my project instructions for now. I'm in the director of marketing. I'm in Claude CoWork. And I'm going to star it so it shows up on the left here. I am actually probably going to change the name slightly, because when I'm over in chat, I think of them as directors. They're strategic and they're implementers, right? When I think of them over in CoWork, they're really just task workers. They aren't doing as much of the strategy. You can ask it to do the strategy, but I often will work out strategy over in chat, and then I will bring the strategy over to Claude CoWork. I can add instructions. I can now schedule tasks in here, which is something you don't do in chat. You do in CoWork. You can schedule it to do things, check your email, look at different posts, read the news for you and report back. It can do all sorts of different things for you. We're not going to go into that right now. So now it's all connected. Now I am still working out the best way. And honestly, because I work so much over in my chat, it is very important that this structure right here, which makes sense to me and that I have emulated and copied or cloned everywhere else, this is the way that I think about running my business. This is the way that I teach. You've got these 6 departments and your chief of staff. So as long as you don't go, crazy when you go into CoWork, and you create some sort of systemized process that's going to allow you to have your chats, and again, start your projects over in chat, fill them up, then copy them over, because you can't go backwards, you can't go the other way. You are going to have a very connected system. Okay, so what happens if you're starting from scratch? If you are starting from scratch, that's okay, but still begin the process over in the chat. This is where I think you're going to get a lot of growth and a lot of figuring out what works for you. And so you start to build your projects over here, build them all out. Okay, it doesn't matter if you don't have content. It doesn't matter if you've got the files right now. Build out your file structure and then populate the file structure as you go. It doesn't all have to be built in one day, friends, okay? But at least create a structure where you can house your data, and then create the same structure or a very similar structure over here. So over here, you better believe I'm going to have a folder called marketing, sales, client success, curriculum, operations, finance, right? And that way I know when I'm connecting things back and forth that it's all making sense in my brain. I don't have to think about it's labeled this way in one area, it's labeled another way in another. For the sake of this, I hope that this makes sense to you. I hope you understand that now it's all connected. And so let's just do a quick run here. And I'm going to say, what do you know about me from the information you have? All right, let's just see what it does. Let's just test it. This is like a primer. It's got all of my wonderful information, right? It knows I'm going into a launch soon. It's got all my offers. It knows who I am. It knows how I work. This is great. Okay, so it's reading information, and now I've got context connected. Again, in CoWork, I'm probably going to have it do things like create me slideshows, create me short presentations, create me different types of reporting, HTML files, graphics, right? A lot of this stuff you can still do over on the chat side. But for this, I really wanted you to see how it's all connected so that when you start to set them up, that you have a through line from your chat projects and directors into your CoWork projects. Okay, I hope that you're having a great day. Let me know if you have any questions.